Welcome back, Who Dat Nation, to another Saints Film Room. Today, focusing on Jimmy Graham. And honestly, there's a lot of stuff I want to do this week for film study. I want to do Jake Haener. I want to take a look at some of the backup offensive line and, of course, some of our defensive players. But I decided as soon as this film dropped, I wanted to talk Jimmy Graham and whether or not he still has it. And we're going to cover that in today's video. I think the answer is pretty obvious once you watch the reps and take an objective view, and that's what we'll do, because this is not going to be a Jimmy Graham hype video, but it will be a, well, here's why I'm excited and here's what I think he could do with New Orleans. Now, I do this every video, but a reminder, a single video that you find on YouTube or even an article you read out there on the interweb, not enough to build a full scouting report. So take all this with a grain of salt, simply use it as a tool to further your own evaluation for a player, and that's it. Let's roll it. Take a look at the tape. I'm excited. First play of the day, and I've got to get out of the way because there's Jimmy Graham right here. And this could be a quick little hitch route, just quick little curl, going for a 4-yard in, and then we're going to move it upfield after the play. So I'll go ahead and let this one roll so you can see right here. They do this a lot with Jimmy Graham, and he's done this his entire career. Wide up, loud and proud on the very outside, and take advantage of being a mismatch through corners. It's something he's literally done most of his career. Like I said, quick little hitch, so 4 or 5 yards, catch, turn up field, decent pass by Winston. This would be a little bit better, a little bit higher, but turn up field, turns to a 6-yard gain. And this is vintage what you can do with Jimmy Graham now. Is that an electrifying play? I certainly wouldn't call it electrifying, but I mean, this is what you hope to find. Short yardage situation, goal line situations, not as much between the 20s, but we are going to see a play from between the 20s. But little things like this is what you want to do with Graham. Take advantage of the size mismatch. He's going to have this most corners in the NFL, and unless you have a flat defender ready for him, this is an extension of the run type of a play. Instant 6 yards. You'll take that all day long. Let's move on to another one. Rolling through here, you're going to have Jimmy Graham as a blocker. Yep, that man blocking. Now, let me be very clear. I appreciate the effort, but like I said, this is not a Jimmy Graham hype video. He did have to go and play with other teams in the NFL that put more of an emphasis on blocking for him in his position. He's going to be a little bit of a backside body right here, just trying to cut out that backside. If he can reach the second level, fantastic. Not great technique here, but you see a willingness that you didn't necessarily used to see with Graham when it came to this, or at least you can tell that he wants to be a part of it. Is he an amazing run blocker? Absolutely not. But the fact that he's in this play right now, that he's in this trash backside, and that he's contributing matters. I mean, backside defenders can be problems, and you want to have every block secured. So you're probably not going to see Jimmy Graham in a lot of 22 personnel, which is 2 tight ends, 2 running backs. He's on the line and he's blocking. You know, I envision him truly being the number 4 tight end on this roster. I think they carry 4. But the key is understanding, is he willing to do it? If he's in that situation, can they just know for sure it's a pass? No, because he is going to be a guy who's now willing and able to do that. All right, so this time we're going to take a look at a timing route. And I talked about this a lot. If you've noticed in the Saints film room for this preseason, we've talked about the timing and route anticipation for receivers. You can see an example of that here, where you've got a layer to the right here, and he's going to come off the line kind of slowly from his natural inside, you can kind of call it a slot position, but that little +2 that he'll align from. Now, one thing I will note is a little bit slow off the line. Now, he is purposely kind of pacing through here. You notice how slow he's getting, and then he'll finally break into it. So there's a reason for that. This isn't Jimmy Graham being lazy. This is actually Jimmy Graham waiting for these 2 routes, which is supposed to be a kind of like a scissor concept, but it's not very pretty. I would actually say these 2 have a pretty dirty set of routes. Doesn't really clean up. But the hope is they clear out, and then that opens up this delayed corner here. And that's why he kind of goes slowly through his release. I would like to see him a little bit quicker off the jump from the actual snap, but in terms of his pacing, this is all about timing. He is not the primary read here, but he does want to create the separation and get open at this point. And was the quarterback able to actually get there? It could have possibly been, instead of it's a short pass up the middle for 5 yards, which honestly you'll take as well. But the whole point of this is want to show you that the understanding of actual football and role is something that Jimmy Graham has that a lot of these younger guys simply don't. And it's something that you learn in time as you get better and better. I talk about all the time, the difference between college ball in terms of understanding and ability is worlds better or worlds lower than the NFL. The NFL being the better of the two here. So little things like this, you can see, hey, Jimmy Graham is not the level of explosion that he used to be, and you wouldn't expect that for a guy been in the league as long as he has, but he makes up for it by understanding role and assignment. So not an exciting rep here, but at the same time, it's all about realistic expectations. And what you're going to see from Jimmy, what he can still do at an elite level, is all that you signed him up for. But let's continue with the film study. Corner route this time, which is similar to what we actually just saw him run on the last play. This time he's going to be the top end of the route, and this time you see a little bit more suddenness here, and you like it. Now, I would also want to point out that I talk about this all the time, and I know my guy, Ross Jackson. Shout out to Ross Jackson, the Locked On Saints podcast. I hate no other route more than the field side out route. What I mean by that is when you've got the wide side of the field and you're throwing all the way across it for a short out route, you are screaming for it to be an interception. I hate when you throw this route. It's one thing for it to be on the short side of the field, but on the wide side over here, I absolutely hate it. But in terms of spacing and route running on the top of this, you're going to have Jimmy Graham, and you can see there was suddenness there, the understanding of the depth that he needs to run at, and it's a really good job by Graham. Now, because of the coverage that they're in, you would have needed better pass protection for another second to let it develop so that this guy would have committed to the underneath route for him to get into this empty zone right here. But either way, the routes there, and it was honestly more of an opportunity for me to hate on the little 5-yard out. But again, this is an issue with protection where you're going to see it breaks down pretty quickly. Anders Pete gives up an interior rush there, and you have to get the ball out, so you're not able to let the entire tree develop. Okay, so on this one, we're going to have Jimmy Graham being a willing blocker here on the backside, and this is a backside screen block, so needs to get his hands on. He's definitely willing here. We talk about the willingness to block. Love to see that. And with him being a backside guy, him not really being able to engage and, utilize that grip strength and stuff we talk about from a blocking perspective is okay. Good hand uses by the DN to get around. Would like to see Jimmy Graham a little bit more engaged, a little bit more forceful here. But it's also, look, you're not expecting him to do this in many real game situations. The fact that he's willing and trying is more than we can probably attest to times past. But being the backside guy, as long as he does enough to delay the pass getting off or allow the pass to get off, delay that defender, it's all good. So I have more of an issue of why we couldn't get a positive play here because the blocking was there. But anyway, Jimmy Graham, backside blocker, willing. We're giving thumbs up for willing. It sounds like I'm dogging him, but honestly, that's not why you brought him back. We're about to see why you brought him back. Actually, hold on. I don't want people to think that I'm dogging him because he truly has become better and more willing to block. Like you see here, another play where he's the backside guy. Let's take a little freeze frame so you can make sure you see where Jimmy Graham is at. So we are stacked heavy to the left here in this 21 personnel where he's the only tight end here on the line, and he's just going to be the backside and chip in. That's all he's going to do, throw a good shoulder to prevent that backside defensive end from getting to this play on a counter. Does a good job. Overall, I mean, you need more blocking on the front side because Jimmy Graham is not, again, going to completely wash out a guy. I think he does a good job. He's willing. He's focusing on inside, doesn't see a guy. He actually gets his head around to find the block and does a good job to try to make a play there. This is good. That's a good rep by the tight end blocking. So anyway, yeah, thanks, Jimmy, for improving over your stellar career, because it has been a stellar career. All right, here's one you've been waiting on. I know many of you have. Jimmy Graham on the inside, heading up the seam in what is a 4 verts type call. I will say the splits for this is pretty unique because normally when New Orleans runs 4 verts, the landmarks are about right. Let's just use the inside so we don't get off the screen. Right here. And then outside the numbers about right there. If you notice, they've got it a little wider now. Curious as to why, but without knowing the play call, can't really say. But what you're going to have is a little check down Charlie here over the middle, and then everybody else is running the big, the beautiful, the seams. And here we're going to see some ugly seam routes from some, but beautiful job by Jimmy to do exactly what you think that he can still do. One release. Look at the matchup. We've got him up on a big boy who is not ready for a bigger man. Backside throw. Jimmy just takes it. Strong hands. Let's talk about what we love about this. So the release, quick, a little bit of suddenness. Again, not Jimmy Graham of the old days, but that's fine. What is he doing well? Using great hands, bodying out, love the catch in traffic, high pointing the football, and more important than anything, strong hands, not letting it get taken out of him, not letting him touch him, and simply being a dog. Now, this is the Jimmy Graham that you're used to seeing, the catch point of it. The release, no, it's not vintage Jimmy Graham, and I want to show you this angle, but this is vintage Jimmy Graham. High pointing the ball, strong hands, securing the catch, using the body to go ahead and make a play in traffic, and then simply being a dog. This is what you hope to get from him. If you are going to use him, mostly going to be probably in red zone situations, not as much between the 20s, but you can see here about the 35 approaching that red zone. Take advantage of what he can do extremely well, which is out body, out catch, and dominate because, hey, we got to mention it. Did you know Jimmy Graham used to play basketball at the University of Miami? In fact, he's well known for his ability to rebound it, get up there and body guys out. Yeah, you probably didn't know that, but now you do. And that's what you can take advantage of Jimmy Graham here in this point of his career. Sure, he's not going to have the fastest, quickest release, but I will point out, in terms of depth and field, it's a pretty damn good job compared to this route, which I'm not going to start a hate session, but that had zero chance. This might as well have been just nothing but a clear. And this route was good, but I'd rather you go to Jimmy Graham anyway, who does a great job with a great back shoulder throw, by the way, from Winston. This is the type of thing you hope to see, except it's Derek Carr throwing this pass to him in a game situation. Fantastic job. And this is what he can still do really well at a high level. And I have to emphasize high level because Jimmy Graham is no longer an elite tight end, but that doesn't mean he has lost all of his elite traits. The ability to use his frame, which is larger than most, he's stronger than most, still has enough quickness, and he has elite hands, and he always did. Take advantage of that. You got a really nice player. But hey, let's look at another play he did pretty well at. All right, so this one, we'll have a little bit of a switch release here, a little scissor concept, and it's not fair. It's honestly not fair at all. And let's talk about the concept first. One, you didn't need to do this, but you did it anyway. But we're going to bring this guy inside, and we'll come out. So what we're going to do is we're going to get the one-on-one for Jimmy on this outside corner. You don't need to, because honestly, both these guys, he is significantly outmatching. What we do know is we're showing a man look. And if you got a man look here, oh, Jimmy Graham's going to dominate against even a lot of really good corners and nickel corners in the NFL. So if this is what the NFL presents with New Orleans when they have Jimmy on the field, take advantage of it. You're going to break him to the outside, give him that one-on-one. And there's no shot here. Again, we're talking about bodying out, using your frame. Exactly what he's done here. Got 1 yard into the end zone to make sure that he's got that room needed to go out and get the ball. Why is this important? Well, let's look at the other angle and talk about it. Again, what can he still do at an elite level? Not everything. He is no longer a number one tight end who's going to dominate every rep in and out. And I don't think he can handle being the 60 snap guy. But what can he still do? He can high point the ball. He's still got a great frame. He's still really strong. And he's still got amazing hands. And you can have multiple of these plays. Look at that, high point in the football. Can't receive as well because those white gloves. I wish he would have worn like gold or black. Look at it from this angle. Body out, high point, get out there. Whole point of us bodying out is so we have that 1 yard in the end zone. We can go get the ball. This is something you can't teach this because you have to have the frame to do it. Sure, you can teach the ability, but unless somebody is actually physically capable of it, it's hard to do. And then simply being strong. I'm not trying to be mean, but it's not like he hip checked the guy. He simply was so stout, the guy bounced off of him. It's simply Newton. Laws of physics. Every action has an equal and opposite reaction. And Jimmy Graham is just big. He's strong. Elite hands still to this day. And I think that is what you can take advantage of. My hopes for Jimmy Graham coming in this season are like 250, 300 yards receiving over the course of a season, but 5 touchdowns. That's my hope. Simply taking him in these situations, taking advantage of the fact that even at this point of his career, he is a better physical player than a lot of guys that he's going to line up against, and you're not asking him to be the main threat. Michael Thomas, Chris Olave, Alvin Kamara, and even Juwan Johnson are the main threats. Having to worry about Taysom Hill. Do we line up in the backfield? Got to respect it. You don't need him to be the 2011 Jimmy Graham. What you need from him to be is a guy who has elite traits that we put in situations to take advantage of those, and that's exactly what you get here. But this isn't the last play. I got one more for you. Just because I don't want people to think I'm saying Jimmy Graham is purely one-dimensional, here's a great rep from him that doesn't get to happen because of pass rush, we're going to complain about pass rush in a later video. But in this one, we got a 3-by-1 concept, 3-by-1 being 3 to one side, so trips to one side by 1. Now, what are we doing here? The middle of the field open look is what's being presented here. For those who are unfamiliar with that, that's 2 safeties, which indicates this, which means this is typically open. Now, what was made famous by Tampa Bay, even though they weren't the first team to do it, was to drop a middle linebacker into what's called the hole to cover that empty space from the middle of the field open look. Jimmy Graham knows all about this and knows exactly where to sit to fit. Now, again, this ball doesn't get to come to him. Jake Hayner's not able to see it because of the immediate loss by the left tackle. He's got to get the ball out very quickly. And honestly, I don't know if Hayner's made to the point where he could do this full read anyway, and that's okay. We're going to have a Hayner film study. But either way, not the quickest release, but again, he knows exactly where he needs to go. And you can see hands. I mean, he knew that he had the route, even though he doesn't have a ton of separation. He knew exactly where he needed to get to. And that's kind of where Jimmy Graham is at in his career. Now, if this was 10 years ago, Jimmy Graham probably does have not only the positioning, he's probably got a good 3 yards of separation because he had elite speed at the time. Now, Jimmy Graham can win with simple physicality and the fact that with no over-the-top guy to help, he probably could have come down with a pretty nice game simply by being who he is, being his size, etc. He still has the ability to be a full field route runner as long as he's not taking on a top corner. You line him up against the elite corners and elite safeties in the league, he's probably going to get scratched out, but that's okay because, again, what's more likely to happen? Getting carried up by a random middle linebacker in a Tampa 2 defense, and he can still take advantage of some of these reps. I think overall, you got a great potential for elite traits to pop off the screen with Jimmy Graham. But let's wrap this one up. I'm real big on expectations being realistic for any player, whether it be a new player coming into the league for the first time or being a veteran, and what do they have left and what can they still do. I think Jimmy Graham shows, and last night definitely proved that, he still has the ability to do some things at an elite level, as in his hands are still great. His ability to position his body and take advantage of how large he is and take advantage of that massive frame and wingspan is still there. He still has enough athleticism to high point the ball better than a lot of guys and take advantage of the other physical attributes that he has. Is he still an elite route runner in terms of speed, suddenness, short area quickness, all these other traits you look for? No. He's not. But New Orleans shouldn't ask him to be. All they should ask him to be is a red zone threat and a short yardage guy who simply has an ability to dominate because of who he is and who he was. And I'm excited and hope that they do keep him on the roster as tight end number 4 with Juwan Johnson, Boston Moreau, Taysom Hill, and Jimmy Graham. And I really do believe that he can hit that 250, 300 yards in the season, but more importantly, a handful of touchdowns. And if that's the case, you got a massive win for New Orleans on a pickup that you hoped would happen last year, happened this year, and now we'll just wait and see as it plays out. If you enjoyed the film study, please make sure that you like this video. It's one of the only few things I ask people to do because it helps out the channel tremendously. Subscribe if you haven't already. Please share it out with other Hoodats so that they too can see this type of work and see what Jimmy Graham is doing. And if you have any questions, put them down in the comment section below. And definitely, if you watch the video, just say Hoodat. His comments help any YouTube channel. Hoodat, God bless. Catch you on the next one. Appreciate every single one of you. Deuces. That's me. We're out.
Yeah.